Hi, I am Christine Whitmarsh. I am also known as Christine Inc., CEO of the Inc. Agency. And these are the 5 things I wish someone had told me before I started my business slash brand way back in 2003. Wow, my goodness, that's a long time. Number one, strong financials are your business's foundation. Sounds obvious, probably obvious to people who are like really into numbers and stuff, but I'm a writer, so I've always liked the marketing and the creative things, and I think I'm not alone in that with my fellow entrepreneurs. We want to do the fun things, especially in my business where I'm helping people write books. It's pretty much all fun. But strong financials are the foundation of your business. And, there was a time in my business where I had a CPA, a bookkeeper, an executive administrative assistant, and a business coach. And I was still plummeting towards financial ruin very quickly. And for some reason, nobody was letting me know that I was completely broke. But here's the thing, it wasn't their responsibility to let me know that I was broke, it was mine. So even if you're surrounded by people and you feel like you're delegating the most important function of your business, financials, just be aware that that's not their responsibility to look out for the welfare of your financials. That's something that you need to be a part of no matter what role you play in your organization, especially CEO. The second lesson, content is everything. And this is a much more fun lesson. I like content. Content's fun. Content is creative. So why was there a time in my business when I wasn't creating content? Well, because it was like the cobbler's kids, that kid has no shoes. And I was so busy working on the billable things and working for my clients that I was very sporadic and very inconsistent about my content creation. It would be like, if I have time, I'll do an email newsletter to my list or a blog post or social media or a video. And without that content habit, it was sporadic. And of course, my results, my marketing results were equally sporadic. And it took me years to realize until I had a content creation habit, until I placed putting my narrative voice out there, putting my voice and message and stories out there of my business, until I prioritized that, there wouldn't be a business. So as soon as I created that content habit and I really, I have my weekly email newsletter, I have a daily podcast. If you told me this 5 years ago that I was going to be pulling off having a daily podcast, it would have blown my mind. But I had to prioritize my narrative voice and putting my content out there, and then the client stuff would take care of itself, which it has. So that's the second thing, is content is everything in addition to financials, but content is everything and it is a long game, so stick with it. Lesson number 3, scaling and growing and having a team and all that, that's not the only way. I was trying to do that business model for a long time. And let's put it this way, I was scaling larger than my finances would allow, as I previously alluded to. And because it was so much, get a 6-figure business and a 7-figure business and leverage, 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 scale, scale, scale. And the first thing you need to do before you start doing that is that right for me? Is that something I even want? Is that a business model that I'm even interested in running? And as it turns out, I wasn't much more interested in running a different kind of business model that I run today. So I didn't need to have, a million people surrounding me, scale, 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 leverage, leverage, leverage. Make sure you start with the self-awareness of who you are, what your brand is, what your business is, who you're serving, and the best ways to do that, not necessarily just because there's hype about how you should run your business. Lesson number 4 is charge, especially if you're talented and especially if you have a skill that is maybe unusually rare or very valuable to people. Make sure you're aware if you have a skill that is unusually rare and valuable to people. And we hear this as entrepreneurs a lot. You're not charging enough, you need to raise your rates. And I don't know, for some reason for me it was just kind of like bouncing off, where like, yeah, but what if I charge more and everybody runs away and I'm not worth it? And then the imposter syndrome sneaks in and all this stuff. But the reality is, if we hear a drum beat loud enough and long enough, like you're not charging enough, you need to raise your rates, especially if you're a creative entrepreneur like myself, a creative professional. It's probably true. There's probably something that you should be listening to in that very loud drum beat. And now I raise my rates with just a minimal of mental angst. And case in point, recently did it one Sunday night. I decided I wasn't charging enough, raised my rates, made a sale at the new rates the next morning at 9:15 a.m. So less mental angst these days. And again, that's the big message there. If you're hearing something as a CEO, as an entrepreneur over and over again, if you're hearing a drumbeat of a message, probably listen to it because it's from people who have been in your place, have been in your shoes before. They know what they're talking about. And finally, number 5, trust yourself. This kind of goes with the financials thing, I was just putting so much power and just control around, to all the people around me, whether it was people who were working for me or vendors or even, so-called experts in my life. I just had this kind of assumption that everybody must know more than me. I had that assumption for many years. And yes, it's important to draw from, expertise and knowledge, from others, from experts, from professionals in their field. But don't forget to trust yourself in the process. As just an example, at one point I was giving away so much of my power that I was referring clients to people who actually weren't that good, but I just had such a low opinion of my own expertise and my own knowledge and my ability to learn. Like if I didn't know something, my ability to go and learn it. So I was actually referring clients to people who really weren't that great, and it actually harmed my reputation that I was making those referrals. And it all came from this place of not trusting myself. So that's my number 5 lesson, is trust yourself, not just the experts. So to recap my 5 lessons that I wish someone had told me back in 2003, hello time machine. Number 1, strong financials are your business's foundation and you are responsible for those. You can't delegate your financial wellness. Number 2, content is everything and it is a long game and it needs to be a habit to get your voice out there. Number 3, scaling isn't the only way. Just because somebody else runs their business in a certain way doesn't mean that it's the right model for your business. Number 4, make sure you charge enough money. It seems so obvious, but make sure you charge enough money, especially if you have, an unusual or rare, super valuable talent or skill that the world is very clearly letting you know is valuable. And number 5, trust yourself, not just the so-called experts. I hope that helps. This is Christine Inc. signing off.